Welcome back. A new video emerged this week of Boko Haram's leader promising to violently disrupt elections. Nigeria's Electoral Commission says the elections will go ahead as planned, as any additional delay to the vote, which was postponed by 6 weeks over security concerns, would be unconstitutional. Journalist Solomon Izang Ashoms joins us in studio to talk to us about Boko Haram and the threat it poses on the elections. Thanks for joining me, Solomon.
Pleasure. Good to be here again.
Now, Solomon, let's start off with the scenario. The reality is that there can be no free and fair elections in Nigeria as long as Boko Haram continues with what it's doing. Would you say that this is an accurate description of the situation?
Yes, I think so. If you look at the northern part of Nigeria, where Boko Haram has actually been operational for quite a while, the states of Borno, the state of Gombe, the state of Bauchi, which Boko Haram actually has some sort of influence. They control certain local governments, as we call them in Nigeria. So if we conduct the elections right now, and obviously you have to you're not going to give the privilege to a lot of people in those part of the states to be able to cast their votes. And I'm sure Boko Haram in itself we want to create a bit of confusion just so you're not going to have a peaceful election.
Now, we had this discussion a few weeks ago that the Nigerian army said that it needs 6 weeks to fight Boko Haram. First of all, I mean, we came to the conclusion that 6 weeks wasn't enough time, and that there's so much red tape involved in, first of all, signing off treaties and that sort of thing. Now they've claimed to have killed 300. The Nigerian military has claimed that they killed 300 Boko Haram soldiers. What's the situation like there? Do you think they are making inroads in terms of destabilizing Boko Haram, or is it still just wishful thinking based on the actual numbers?
I think the last few years, the Nigerian army has actually they've lost trust from the citizens of Nigeria, because, you know, they give figures. Sometimes they give figures of Boko Haram. They said they've killed the leader. They said they've gone into certain places. They're going to release the girl. So you're not really sure. Whenever the Nigerian army says anything, you're not really sure about it anymore, because people obviously have lost hope. But I think the thing that is working for them right now is not just the Nigerian army that is trying to fight Boko Haram. You have the Chadian army, you have the Nigerian army from Niger Republic, you have the Cameroon army, you also have army from Benin Republic. And ECOWAS, which is the regional seat of West Africa, is actually really monitoring everything and being part of it. And because Boko Haram operates not just in Nigeria, they go into Chad, they go into Niger, they now have a relationship with these armies, and these army are really helping them to do that. So, but it's not just the Nigerian army for me in this case that is really fighting, but still, you want to see a lot of evidence. You want to be able to get a joint statement, not just from the Nigerian army, but from the forces that have come together.
Now that the elections have been jeopardized, it seems like the fight against Boko Haram has intensified. They've always known that Boko Haram exists. Boko Haram has been, you know, going and torturing people. So it's not a new thing. Why now all of a sudden is the fight against Boko Haram intensifying? They knew all along. It's not a new thing.
I think you have to look at it in this is elections time. So obviously you want to play your last card. You want to bring out your joker.
So it's an election strategy.
It's an election. I see it as an election strategy by Jonathan. I feel the postponement of the first election. Yes, a lot of the PVCs have not been distributed, you know, the way that it should. Millions of people have not really gotten it yet. But at the same time, he knows that part of the elections mandate from the opposition, that is the APC, led by General Muhammadu Buhari, was to say, look, as soon as we come in, security is going to be the #1 you know, mandate for us. We're going to make sure we get Boko Haram out of the way. And he is an ex-general. So obviously he knows what he's talking about. He's more credible. Even when he was the head of state of Nigeria, there was a lot of credibility that he established. So now, in 6 weeks, maybe, you know, let's use the 6 week. Maybe the
it's
PDP.
No longer 6 weeks. There's 4 weeks left now, because
there's
remember,
4 weeks left now.
We spoke about this 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
It was 6 weeks. Now there's 4 weeks left. So there's not a lot of time. And just another thing, don't you think that, I mean, this makes Good Luck Jonathan look really bad, considering that he's been there for so long and he's had the time, and now all of a sudden he's saying, okay, this is what I can do. I'll bring in forces. We will fight Boko Haram. But you've been there all this time. Why hasn't he been fighting Boko Haram all along?
I think this whole situation has really exposed Good Luck Jonathan as a very weak leader. And you have to know that my perspective is Nigeria is not governed by just Goodluck Jonathan. Because he's so weak, there are other leaders, key leaders. There's a couple of ministers that are a part of it. And this has really exposed them. He has come several times to say, look, Boko Haram is really not an issue. You know, he said, no, Boko Haram, we've gotten Boko Haram, we've destroyed them, we're not going to see them anymore. So anytime you come out and say such things, you lose a lot of credibility. But for me, he's been there for 5 years now, and you've not been able to do anything. The last 5 years, actually, Boko Haram has gained a lot of credibility during his time. And it's really sad because he was supposed to make sure security is a very huge point, but he's not been able to do that. But he is really... It's really not a good thing. I don't know how he's going to bounce back when people go out to cast their votes, because the ballots is definitely going to speak, and I don't think he's going to be able to make it from some of the problems that he created by himself and some of the problems that are there. That as the president and commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, you're supposed to go out there and make sure you work out these things, but he's not been able to do that.
Now, speaking of people casting their votes, the elections have already been postponed to next month. What will happen if there's a further delay?
That would be a victory for Boko Haram. Boko Haram is definitely Boko Haram wants to definitely see that they get some sort of victory. If you look at the 15 minutes video by Abubakar Shekau that was released yesterday, he was not just mentioning Nigeria as a nation. He mentioned the Chadian army, the Chadian leader. He mentioned the Nigerian leader. So he knows that this is a force now coming against them. And for Boko Haram, if you really look at their history and what they stand for, is anything to do with Western education. So elections is not supposed to be a part of the society that they're trying to create because it's a Western idea. You're supposed to be under the rulership of the Quran, of Islam. So if it's not really under Islam, then it's not really a point. And if these elections are postponed, it's definitely going to be a victory for Boko Haram, and it's also going to be a defeat for Jonathan, for Goodluck Jonathan. It's going to be a huge defeat for him because a lot of people are really going to lose. He's really going to lose credibility, and the opposition is going to get a huge point to really hammer on between when he's postponed again until the next new date, maybe.
Now, speaking of that, critics have accused the ruling party of actually purposely orchestrating the delay to give Goodluck Jonathan more time to kind of revitalize his re-election campaign. Is this true? Because now you've just said that it will give the opposition an advantage to kind of push forward with their election campaign.
My calculations is, the first postponement, if Jonathan if he had noticed that he had a good chance, he would still allow the elections to go on, in spite of the millions of PVCs that was not distributed. But he is very much aware that his chances are very, very slim. He's very much aware that he's actually almost, a lot of research that was done around the country, it shows that, he's going to lose the election. A lot of people from his party are moving over to the opposition because it seems like, he's going to lose the election. And I think because he saw that he has a chance of losing the election, he said, let's postpone this election. Let's go back and look at our strategies again and bring in 1 or 2 points that we're going to be able to make sure that we get some sort of credibility with the voters. But I'm not sure he's been able to do that. It's become a very bitter war, unfortunately. I don't think we've ever seen any sort of election in Nigeria this way. And my question is always, at the end of these elections, when we have these elections in Nigeria, will there still be a Nigeria as a country?
Speaking of that, I actually want to get back to that statement, but we'll look at it. Now, the safety situation in Nigeria is very volatile. Yeah. Realistically, can Nigeria hold elections in this environment as it stands?
I think you have to take a risk. You have to make sure that this is an election that's done once every 4 years, and we've seen nations like Afghanistan and Iraq having elections in as much as there was a whole lot of violence going on. But it's just a case of trying to make sure you use the forces, the security that you have in all these areas in the northeast part of Nigeria to make sure there's some sort of a peace and security presence. But I think the elections need to go on, because I think the longer it takes, the more it's going to, caused a lot of problems within people. There's been a lot of people, not just Boko Haram, but between the two parties, there's a lot of tension going on, and people are being killed and bomb blast in Bayelsa State and all that kind of stuff. And you want to be able to say, look, we know it's not really totally conducive, but let's have the election as long as both parties sit down and agree that we should have this election.
Don't you think the elections will be overshadowed by the continuing insurgency? I mean, let's say the elections do take place next month. Will the outcome even be credible? Will people be able to say, okay, this was a free and fair election and let's take the country forward?
I don't think Nigeria had ever had any sort of credible elections, you know. So I don't think it's going to be a new thing. You know, if you're talking about credibility of elections, it's a new thing.
But I mean, what kind of country does that make? Because you have to have free and fair elections in order to consider yourself as a democratic nation. But you are saying now that they've never had credible elections. You mentioned when we spoke a few weeks ago about the state of corruption there. So, and that it's a normal thing, that
yes.
it's a norm.
Yes.
So what is wrong there? What will it take to fix the problems in Nigeria? Because it seems like it actually starts at the top and it just trickles down.
It starts at the top and is going all the way down. And Nigeria's election is money election. Nigeria's election is about, if you have, you know, the more money you have, the more you actually going to win your election. And I think Nigeria is still a young democracy. You know, we've only been there just about 15 years now or so, and we're still learning. But at the same time, it's difficult for Nigeria to learn as fast as maybe Rwanda or as fast as Kenya, because we are very, again, I go back to corruption, we are very corrupt. We don't have integrity. You do have whatever you have to do for you to get into office. To be a candidate in an election, you are like a businessman. A couple of people push you on there and say, look, we're ready to invest in you. You're a credible person in the society. We're going to invest.
You're a seemingly credible person.
Seemingly credible. We're going to invest in you. You go there and we're going to get all the tenders, all the contracts. And that's the way it works, you know. And for us to be able to have a credible election is really going to be, it's going to be very difficult. You know, we may be credible by Nigerian standard, but not by South African standard or by Kenyan standard. And we have to really look at it, because if we don't do that, we're really not going to be able to get the government that we want, and it's really going to be very difficult for the nation of Nigeria.
Now, it would also be unconstitutional to postpone the elections due to the insurgency. But then there's still the 200 girls that are missing.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a bit quiet. No one's saying anything about them as much as they were when they were initially kidnapped. How does the Nigerian government continue to put a stamp on the authority if it seems like they're clearly not managing to protect their citizens?
It's just the way that it works. You know, how do you spin things around? How do you make sure that you move away from talking about the 200 Chibok girls that, you know, we're taking, and talk about other issues? How do you move away from it? How do you move away from talking about issues that are relevant to people? How do you make sure you just talk about certain things and then you give people money, credible people money, just so they will voice their opinion? You know, you give traditional leaders money, because a lot of it happens in Nigeria. You go to a certain state, you give a traditional leader money. Whatever he says is what the people are going to follow, because we have that kind of leadership. Now,
speaking of traditional leaders, there's been an attempt to juggle more than 250 ethnic groups within Nigeria. And there's sort of an unwritten agreement, you know, to rotate power between the north and the south. And we know that Buhari is from the north, whereas Goodluck Jonathan is from the south. What's the real deal here, just briefly?
It's just been, you know, when Obasanjo was from the west, so he had his own turn. It's 8 years and he left, and it was the turn of the north to now take, because the north is more like, if you look at historically, the northern part of Nigeria has governed Nigeria much longer than any part of Nigeria. And when the British was leaving Nigeria, after independence in the 1st of October 1960, they intentionally left power in the hands of the northern leaders, you know. But at the same time, the northern leaders are not like the smartest, you know. Maybe the West are the smartest, but they know how to govern, they know how to retain power. So they did that for quite a while. And when Obasanjo left, it was the turn of the north. Yar'Adua came, and he became the leader, and he died just after his first tenure 3 years into it, he lost his life.
Do you think that unwritten agreement will come into play here between the South and the
I
North
don't see it
case?
coming because Jonathan came. Jonathan didn't do his 2 times. So it's more like a lot is changing. And I want to see it as a part of the growth of democracy in Nigeria. Instead of just saying, let's concentrate on this side and then we shift power next time around. Why don't we look for the best candidate for the nation?
Now, just finally, the future of Nigeria. And what kind of Nigeria are we likely to see after these elections?
We're likely to see a Nigeria that is really bruised and battered, a Nigeria that is divided. Whoever wins the election, the country is going to be divided, and the leader would have to really go around and try to make sure, you mend fences with a lot of the leaders and also the other political parties. We're going to see a Nigeria where a lot of people are going to lose hope. But then it depends on the leader again. How is he going to make sure he restores hope in the next maybe 2-3 years into his term? But it's not really looking well for Nigeria. A lot of people might be okay, the middle class, the little middle class that we have and the upper class. But the poor man, that's who you're talking about. You're talking about the masses, people who are in poverty. There's no clinics around where they live. They have to work for 3 hours. There is no any source of water, no electricity. Nigeria is a dark country. There's no electricity. I mean, people use generators.
So a lot needs to be done.
A lot needs to be done. And I just hope that, we're going to be able to, it's going to be a huge wake-up call for whoever is going to win, which I feel is going to be, Muhammadu Buhari. From the look of things, if Nigeria is to have elections today, I think he's going to be the one to win because he's been able to articulate his vision very well.
Well, we know where your vote's going, if you were to vote, that is. Thank you so much for joining us, Solomon.
A pleasure.
That was Solomon Izang Ashoms, commentator and founding editor of Parable magazine. He was speaking to us on the atmosphere in Nigeria as the country prepares for the elections in just over a month.